June 1840. The Royal Navy steams into the Pearl River Delta with 16 warships and 4 iron steam-powered gunboats. Over the course of 3 years, 70,000 soldiers of the British Empire cycle through the China theater. The Qing Dynasty has nothing on land or sea that can stop them. But what if the defenders of the Chinese coast were not Qing soldiers at all? 100 snow leopards, the most efficient solitary ambush predator in the Himalayas, released into the rice terraces, the river valleys, and the fog-shrouded forts of the South China coast. The scenario is fixed. The First Opium War, June 1840 to August 1842. The British force composition remains historical. 16 warships of the line, 27 transport vessels, and the iron steamer HMS Nemesis. Approximately 70,000 soldiers and sailors cycle through the theater across 3 years. Their objective is unchanged. Seize Canton, then Amoy, then Ningbo, then Shanghai, then push up the Yangtze River to Nanjing. The Qing army has been removed from the simulation. In its place, 100 healthy adult snow leopards dropped at random across Guangdong, Fujian, Zhejiang, and Jiangsu provinces. They behave as wild snow leopards behave. Solitary, nocturnal, with no coordination, no commander, and no purpose beyond survival and feeding. The British may use only the weapons they actually deployed in 1840. No air support, no artillery beyond what is carried by ship, no knowledge that their enemy is not human. The simulation runs until the historical treaty date of August 29, 1842. Panthera uncia, the snow leopard. An adult male weighs between 25 and 55 kilograms. Body length reaches 150 centimeters. The tail adds another 100 centimeters used for balance on cliff faces and wrapped over the face during sleep for warmth. Vertical leap up to 6 meters. Horizontal leap up to 15 meters from a standing start. Bite force quotient of approximately 108, higher than a lion. Smoke gray fur with black rosettes. Near invisible against rock and snow. Native altitude 3,000 to 4,500 meters. Paw pads are heavily furred to muffle steps on stone, and nostrils are enlarged to warm thin mountain air before it reaches the lungs. The snow leopard hunts by ambush. It closes to within 6 meters of its prey before striking, targeting the back of the neck or the base of the skull. A single adult can kill animals 3 times its own body weight. One detail worth noting: the snow leopard cannot roar. Its larynx is structured differently from other big cats, and the sound it makes is called a chuff. The British Expeditionary Force, commanded at sea by Admiral George Elliot, then by his cousin Captain Charles Elliot. On land by Major General Hugh Gough, veteran of the Peninsular War and proponent of an aggressive bayonet doctrine. His standing order is to close with the enemy and fix bayonets within 60 seconds of contact. The infantry carry the Brown Bess musket, .75 caliber, smoothbore, effective range about 80 meters, 3 rounds per minute under ideal conditions. Selected units carry the New Brunswick rifle, rifled barrel, effective range about 270 meters. Bayonets are 17 inches of triangular steel. The naval armament is decisive. HMS Wellesley is a 74-gun ship of the line. HMS Nemesis is 184 feet of iron hull, 60 horsepower, drawing only 1.8 meters of water, mounted with 2 32-pound pivot guns. She is the first iron warship in history to operate in Asian waters. Congreve rockets complete the arsenal. 32-pound warhead, range up to 1,800 meters. Inaccurate but terrifying in flight. The land force is mixed. British line regiments including the Royal Irish, the Cameronians, and the 26th Foot. Sepoy battalions from the Bengal and Madras presidencies, and the Royal Marines. One detail worth noting about this army: of the roughly 3,100 British deaths across the entire war, more than 70% are caused not by combat. They die instead of dysentery, cholera, and malaria. The army that defeats Qing China is, statistically, more dangerous to itself than its enemy is. Phase 1. The landing at Chuenpi, June 21, 1840. The Royal Navy enters the Pearl River Delta and expects to face Chinese war junks. The river is empty. The bogue forts are silent. Royal Marines come ashore at Chuenpi at dawn and find the gun batteries undefended. By midday, the Union Jack flies over the fort, and the column is moving inland by dusk. Night 1. A picket of 3 sentries is posted at the southern perimeter. At 3 in the morning, the corporal of the guard makes his round. One sentry is gone. His brown Bess is still leaning against the wall. There is a wet drag mark in the dirt leading uphill into the rocks. The corporal does not follow it. By daylight, 2 more sentries are missing from 2 different positions. Surgeon Major Andrew Anderson examines the drag mark and notes puncture wounds in the soil where claws have dug for purchase. He does not recognize the species. Within 72 hours, 23 British soldiers across 4 landing zones have disappeared. None have been engaged by an enemy, and none have fired a shot. Officers blame Qing irregulars. Patrols are doubled, but they find nothing. Above them, on the limestone karst hills outside Canton, 12 snow leopards have already established hunting grounds. Each leopard works alone, and none knows another exists. But this is the first problem in the simulation. The snow leopard is not adapted to the South China coast. Phase 2. The climate. Native habitat of Panthera. Yinsaaye sits between 3,000 and 4,500 meters elevation, where mean summer temperature is around 15 degrees Celsius. The Pearl River Delta in July reaches 34 degrees Celsius, with humidity at 90%. The leopard's winter coats do not shed quickly enough. Within 8 days, 11 of the original 100 animals are dead. Heat stroke accounts for most. 1 drowns in a flooded paddy field. 2 contract distemper from feral dogs. The British, advancing in lockstep, do not know any of this. They believe an organized resistance is shadowing their column. They lose 19 men in the same period, 16 of those to dysentery from contaminated river water. The animal and the Empire are killing themselves at almost identical rates. The leopards make a decision no commander ordered. They climb, and by the second week of August, the surviving 86 animals have migrated individually into the higher elevations behind Canton, into the Nanling Mountains, into the cloud forests at 1,500 meters. The climate is still wrong, but it is survivable. From those ridges, they can see the British supply road below. Phase 3. The siege of Canton begins on May 24, 1841. 2,200 British and Indian troops advance through hill country. The road is narrow, and sepoys of the 37th Madras Native Infantry walk in single file. Flanking pickets cannot see 10 meters into the brush. At 16 minutes past 5 in the afternoon, a sepoy at the rear of the column is taken. The man behind him hears nothing. He turns. The space where his comrade stood is empty. A single boot lies in the road. The pattern repeats through the night. Sergeant Major John Greaves of the Cameronians is found at the base of a rock face. His skull has been crushed inward by a single impact above the right ear. The puncture marks are not made by any Chinese weapon. They are made by canine teeth 4 centimeters in length. The marching column does not stop. Gough orders the men into closed formation, and a leopard cannot attack a closed formation, so they wait. 26 British soldiers die in the hills above Canton over 4 nights. The expedition believes it is being harassed by Qing snipers. 3 villages are burned in retaliation. The villages were already empty. A junior officer of the 18th Royal Irish writes in his diary that no Chinese sniper leaves bite marks. He is told not to repeat the observation. On May 27th, Canton falls. The British receive $6 million silver in ransom and withdraw downriver. 41 men have been lost in the campaign, 29 of them unaccounted for by enemy fire. Phase 4. The pivot up the coast. Through the summer of 1841, the campaign moves north. Amoy is bombarded and taken on August 26th. 278 guns are fired by HMS Wellesley alone. The town falls in 3 hours. The Snow Leopards are 800 kilometers behind the front line. They cannot follow a fleet. This is the rule the simulation begins to reveal. A leopard is fast and effectively invisible. It kills more reliably per ambush than any soldier on the field. But it cannot board a ship, and it cannot pursue an army that travels by water at 8 knots. By October, the British have seized Ningbo, 300 kilometers further north. Only a handful of leopards have managed to migrate that far. They do so following river valleys, alone, killing pigs and goats along the way. One is shot by a frightened farmer in Jiangxi province who has never seen a gray cat. 2 more starve in the lowlands. Winter, 1841 to spring, 1842. The British garrison at Ningbo holds through the cold months. On March 10th, Qing forces attempt a counterattack into the city. In the historical war, this is a failed assault by 10,000 troops that the British repel in a few hours. In the simulation, the counterattack does not happen because there are no troops to send. Instead, on the night of March 12th, 2 leopards that have followed the coast for 6 months enter the outskirts of the city. They take 4 soldiers from a forward picket and disappear into the dawn fog. The British garrison commander writes home that the campaign is being haunted by something the men have begun calling the smoke. Phase 5. The Yangtze. June 1842. HMS Nemesis enters the Yangtze River. The river is 4 kilometers wide at Wusong, and the iron steamer draws less than 2 meters. She moves against the current at 6 knots without sail. There is nothing on the Chinese side of the war that can intercept her. There are no snow leopards in the marshes of the lower Yangtze, and there never were. The British advance 150 kilometers inland by water alone. On July 21st, they take Zhenjiang, and the garrison there is wiped out in a single afternoon. On August 5th, they anchor under the walls of Nanjing. The Treaty of Nanjing is signed on August 29th. Hong Kong is ceded. 5 treaty ports opened. 21 million silver dollars in indemnity. In the hills behind the receding war, 63 snow leopards are still alive. Most have moved inland, north and west, into Hunan, Hubei, eventually Sichuan. They are not where they belong, and they will not breed successfully in this climate. Within 15 years, the introduced population will collapse to 0. But for those 15 years, peasant villages in the foothills of central China will record an unfamiliar gray predator. The local name they give it does not translate cleanly into English. The closest equivalent is the cat that is not there. This is the twist the experiment exposes. The snow leopards killed more British soldiers in close combat than the entire Qing army managed in 3 years of war. Approximately 140 kills are attributable to leopards across the simulation. The Qing army's verified combat kills against British troops sit closer to 70. By every measure of individual lethality, the leopard is the better weapon. The British still win the war. Victory comes because the war was never a hunting contest. HMS Nemesis can sail up a river a leopard cannot cross. A treaty is signed in a cabin office a leopard cannot enter. The metric of 19th century empire is not how many enemy soldiers a defender can kill. It is how much of a coastline can be denied to a steamship. A snow leopard cannot deny a coastline. It cannot blockade a port or read a treaty. The animal that hunts at 4,000 meters is irrelevant at sea level. The verdict. The most efficient solitary predator on Earth, deployed in the wrong climate against the wrong enemy, kills twice as many men as the army it replaces, and loses the war anyway. The First Opium War was not won by infantry. It was won by iron hulls in shallow water, by shells fired from beyond the range of any animal, by paperwork drawn up in officers' cabins 1,000 miles from the nearest mountain. The snow leopard is the apex of a vertical ecosystem. The Royal Navy was the apex of a horizontal one. They never truly met on the same battlefield. Empires do not fall to the perfect predator. They fall to a better engine,